I can't tell if we're on or not. Yes? I've got a lot of background music here. 1 second. I've got kind of a lot of background music from the music. 1 second, guys.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, cool. Okay, now we're on. Good. Hi, Dave. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I've listened into some of the speakers.
1 second. Yeah. Okay, we're on. So I wasn't making sure. So a little technical issues there.
No
so Linda,
problem.
Dave, great. So Linda, ladies first, how are you today? Good morning.
I'm great. It's a sunny day in Eastern Canada. How are you, Tom?
Very good, very good. Dave, also early. Are you in LA?
In LA, it's 6 o'clock, and it's actually we got gray June gloom for the morning, so it keeps the days cool, so that's all wonderful.
Okay, great. Well, we should have Garth joining us hopefully soon. We'll see how that comes along. But this is the last panel for today. I don't know if you all have been here during the full day or parts of the day anyway. So we started with Japan and we rolled into Australia, Western Europe, UK. We had a few sessions from Moldova, from Bulgaria, from Romania. And this is the final panel on the US market or US and Canada, I'll say. And one of our polls was, which is the most important market for Central European tech companies? And it was the United States. No surprise, really. So I wanted to just have maybe Dave kick off a little bit and give a bit of perspective from the US, especially from the West Coast US, in terms of the Central European technology companies and how they are positioning themselves, how they're perceived. You've got lots of options, whether it's India, Philippines, other markets. But just go through a little bit from that perspective. And you got a presentation as well, as I understand, Dave, yes?
Yeah, so I can do the presentations as well, give a little overview of our company, and then I can talk a little bit about the market and go from there.
Okay, let's do that. Let's go to Screaming Box. Great.
Alrighty. We're basically a company that's based in San Francisco, and we're a little bit different than a typical outsourcing company, in the sense that our developer base is all freelancers, and we focus on very senior level developers. It's one of the reasons why we're a freelance company, because a lot of these very senior freelance people, they're not the type of people who would normally work in a traditional agency situation. They don't like 9-to-5 jobs. They don't want to have a rigid schedule. And they're looking for very kind of cutting edge, advanced type of projects. And so we have developers all over the world in all types of skill sets and specialties. And although our traditional platform is web and mobile and software, firmware, hardware, we also do a lot of graphic design and marketing materials, and even some legal and accounting, depending on the needs of the clients. And we also service a very wide spread of business, everything from a bootstrap startup to enterprise companies. And so our kind of agency spectrum is that if we had a key word, it would be flexibility. We're really focused on being a very flexible type of provider. And we work with actually a lot of Eastern European providers. So in various countries, example, we have a company in the Ukraine. They are a software provider. They're basically a digital agency. They focus on web and mobile. And so we use developers from them, and we help them develop a freelance network that basically is they're kind of our representation in the Ukraine for a freelance network. And if we have a client who needs someone more full-time, or someone who is a more traditional software developer, then we'll use one of their in-house developers, right?
You also have Hungarian. I understand you have Hungarian developers as well, right?
Yes, we actually we have a couple of agencies in Hungary, but we also have a lot of direct freelance developers in Hungary. Our freelance pool is probably the biggest in Hungary, although Hungary is a little bit of a misnomer. Our freelance Hungarian pool is a bunch of Hungarians, but they tend to live everywhere, right? So we have a lot of developers, Hungarian developers in Berlin and Munich and France and England. So technically they're Hungarian, but as you know, in the EU, they move around. And we have a lot of freelance developers who are these digital nomads who are, I had one project where one of my developers was basically taking a tour of South America. And so he was, doing development in the evenings, and during the day he was visiting sites and doing, all kinds of stuff as he was doing his holiday for 6 months. So we have, like I said, a lot of flexibility in our freelance development pools. But we do a lot. Our enterprise clients tend to like, full-time developers, and those projects are a little bit longer. So with those type of projects, we usually work with a service provider in one of the countries. And again, we focus mostly on Eastern Europe. For a wide variety of reasons. One of them is, the developers have a high level of education and are very good at structured coding. And the language, they tend to all be fairly good English speakers. And they're looking at software from an advanced level. So our preference is that we do have developers, obviously, in South America. That helps with the time zones for the West Coast. And when we build a team, the team would probably have one South American developer on it, who usually is able to do client calls in the afternoon and evenings on the West Coast, and then pass that information over to the developers in Eastern Europe. So when they wake up in the morning, they have, understanding of what they need to do and other things. So it's a little bit different way of doing digital services. And for that reason, it makes us a little unique. But we like that. And again, it allows us to work with Central European digital service providers. And our focus, we have two sides of the company. One side is kind of this managing and recruiting into our freelance network, and the other side is the sales and marketing. And I tend to handle more of the sales and marketing side, and lining up projects and working with companies. And we have a whole side of the company, and most of our staff is in Hungary, who handles the HR and handles working with the digital service providers and managing a freelance pool. And some of the service providers who were earlier, the Bulgarians and Romanian teams, they all talked about the, managing projects with their developers. So it's complex, even if you have a whole staff of full-time developers in a building. That's complex. Now imagine trying to manage a bunch of freelancers who are everywhere in different time zones, trying to make a project work. So we've really kind of developed our own tools and flexibility in trying to manage that situation, which is even more complex. But it's kind of one of the things that's needed to do the type of business that we're doing.
Okay.
And this slide kind of talks about where we are. We only do time and materials. We don't do project-based projects with fixed budgets. And we do have on-site a lot of our developers. We do have some United States developers, as well as, a bunch of the EU developers have ESTA access, so they're able to come in and work on site for a month or so, and we do that. And obviously, with remote work, we're the pandemic shifted a lot of things. Some of our digital service providers in Eastern Europe really had to shift their situation because they all had office buildings with a bunch of people in it, and they had to send all their people home and start working remote. And they started realizing that working remote is not that easy. And a lot of companies are finding that. It was very interesting at the Developer Week Global Conference. I gave a presentation on remote working and listened to a lot of presentations. And one of the things that companies are dealing with is they had larger SMBs and enterprise companies. They had a building full of developers. They sent them all home and they had to work remote. And what they found is that they had a loss of productivity of between 20 and 30% from their developers working from home, because all of a sudden they had to deal with their kids. And even something as simple as normally they would grab lunch and eat lunch in 15 minutes and go back to work, whereas at home they cook a lunch and it takes a lot longer. So these larger companies are starting to realize that by sending all their workers home, they've lost 20 to 30% of their productivity in software development. And it's not so easy to hire another 20 or 30% people to work from home. It doesn't make sense. So the projection for digital service providers is actually one in which they think that they will grow this year. Obviously, the largest digital service providers, the top 5 to 6, will get most of that business. But even the smaller digital service providers should see more business flowing, because the enterprise companies really are seeing a loss of productivity. And the easiest way to get that productivity back is either to give the work to an agency as a project, or to try to hire the agency for team extension or bringing on one of their developers in more of a full-time role. And part of that aspect is the digital service providers will have to really show that they are good at managing their own digital developers who are working remote. And so there is an opportunity for digital service providers this year to grow their business from this loss of productivity that's occurring. But they also have to convince their potential clients that they're really good at managing their own developers remotely. So this concept of remote work and managing your developers and your providers remotely is a key aspect. And we've been doing that for 7 years. Our whole company started with it and is based on it. So remote work is actually kind of our specialty. And even some of our digital service providers in some of our countries are asking us, how do we manage all these remote projects and working with freelancers to make it. So we're actually getting some consulting based on our ability to work remotely and what are our techniques.
Okay, let me maybe you finish. I don't know if you have, but I want to get Linda in just for a second.
Sure.
Just to give us a quick overview of what FTI Business Diplomacy is doing, Linda. And I know you're working in lots of cities across the U.S., Canada, but also in Europe. But first, this floor to you, please.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm a partner in a company called FDI Business Diplomacy, and we're an economic development advisory firm. And we do lead generation and investment attraction activities for economic development organizations, investment promotion agencies, and also we work with corporate clients of all sizes, startups, SMEs, large corporations, multinationals, does not matter what size they are or where they're located.
Linda?
Yes.
Let me interrupt. Our tech guy says that no one can see your presentations. So on your screen, you need to refresh your page.
Sure.
And I think that might do it. Let me just check with him. What? Yeah, and do not, and the other thing, Linda, don't use full screen mode. That's what seems to be throwing us off. So refresh your presentation and don't use full screen mode. And if that doesn't work, then we'll go without it.
Yeah. Share screen. Nope, doesn't seem to be working. Okay, that's no problem anyway, because sometimes presentations, yeah, I can talk about
Just
the whole
tell us. Absolutely, just tell us.
Okay,
Yeah.
so as I was saying, we work with economic development organizations, investment promotion agencies, and also corporate clients of all sizes. And we work right around the globe. I have a lot of experience working in Eastern Europe, Prague, Budapest,
Vienna, you said.
Romania, Poland, love Eastern Europe. And we also work across all key sectors as deemed priority by the government agencies, but also any sector that is looking to for investment opportunities in global jurisdictions. And we're a connector. So, for example, I'll focus on the IT sector here today, because after this, I have 5 IT companies, software developing companies that are looking to speak with me, which I'm so pleased to speak with them. I'm going to focus on the Canadian market when I have the conversations, and provide them with an overview of what it takes to incorporate a company in Canada, the startup scene, what incentives you can tap into. So I'm ready to answer those questions either right now or when I have the one-on-one meetings. With the company that I work with, we hold all of us together. There's 6 of us on the team. Decades of experience hosting in-market business development missions. We can also do host seminars, roundtables, and C-level generation, setting up B2Bs at conferences and things like that. So another example is if one of the clients that are, or potential clients that are on are joining us today.
Yep.
Sorry, it's early here. That's my excuse.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You can't see them. That's the only disadvantage, right? Yeah.
If they're looking to do business in Canada or the US, so they come to us and we say, okay, what type of questions do you have for us? And we can provide those answers. Are you looking to set up a company? Then we can help you set up the company. Are you looking to just come to a conference? Once again, focusing on the IT sector. Are you looking to come to a large conference like the IoT World? And we can set up one-to-one meetings for you at that. Are you looking for us to host you into a state, US state, or into a province in Canada, and have one-to-one business development meetings with C-levels meaning CEO, COO, CFO. We can set you up on those investor meetings to help you drive investment opportunities for you. Are you looking for market entry strategies, things like this? We can answer all those questions for you. Are you looking to meet with some partners? We have the network in place to introduce you to those partners, and that includes heads of universities in Canada and the US, multipliers, meaning industry associations, IT associations, embassies, chambers of commerce, etc., and also key influencers. So I hope that gives a pretty brief overview of the services that we can offer and how we can help anyone that's tuned in with us today.
Okay, let me ask you, thanks for that. Let me ask you a little bit to Dave. If you were sitting in the shoes of a Central European technology company here, digital company here, give us an idea of some of the tips that they can, ways that, or ideas, ways they could get tap into the US market more effectively. How would one do that? Let's say you're sitting in Bucharest or you're in you're in Sofia, wherever you may be. And given the current environment, which is you're not traveling very much, probably not going to be doing much travel for the next 12 months, what is a way for them to do that? What are they doing? What do you find that works? What doesn't work? What has been working, and what doesn't work?
Well, it actually is a big challenge in a sense. For us, most of our business has all come from word of mouth and relationships. I'm in the Los Angeles area. My partner is also in San Francisco. Two partners actually in San Francisco. And so our business has been built mostly with personal relationships and a personal network. And we usually grow that personal network by usually going to networking events, trade shows throughout the world and in the country and meeting people. Obviously, now that's stopped. The reason that we focused on personal relationships is one of the complaints that all of our clients have given us is that their emails and their LinkedIns are flooded with Asian service providers, Eastern European service providers, basically sending them emails and spamming them, trying to get business. And so they kind of turn that off, right? Now they have no other choice because they can't meet service providers personally and look at them. So now they're looking at their LinkedIn as a connection, and they're trying to figure out who do they talk to. And so that's the biggest challenge for us, because we're basically, our sales side is US based, and we have a lot of these personal relationships. It's a little bit easier for us to go and talk to somebody. And even if I contact them on LinkedIn, they see I'm US based and our company is US based, even though all of our developers are in Eastern Europe or South America. It seems a little bit easier to kind of engage them. And actually, some of our digital service providers, have asked us, can we help them with a client or get into a client, or they have somebody because we're here and we can make phone calls and talk to them easily. That seems to help. So if you're a digital service provider in Eastern Europe, your standard methodology for lead generation is basically LinkedIn, Facebook, some of those type of messaging, email marketing, but also going on, there's a bunch of websites where you can post your company information, and people looking for service providers can go there and pick an agency. We tend not to do those. And the reason for that is those people who are going on those sites are looking to compare a bunch of agencies and are picking lowest price. And for us, we don't operate on lowest price. We're operating at looking for a different type of business in that sense. We're looking for a more higher end business or more complex business. But that's one of the ways that the digital service providers can do it. Actually, this association, which is one of the reasons that Tom, me, and you are on this and working on the board of advisors, is to help Eastern European digital service providers communicate and connect with people in different markets. And part of that is this kind of trust validation aspect, right? Where people trust, someone who's looked at them from their eyes. So in the situation of us, I can take a look at digital service providers and say, these guys have all the tools they need to do it. And so us as an association can play a validation and recommendation role for potential clients in the US who are looking for a digital service provider, right?
Okay, so let me jump in. Let me jump in with all those more specific questions too. So let's say that you're a startup company in Los Angeles, New York, whatever, Boston. You just got $5 million from a VC, and you're going to scale up your activities. One of the wisest ways is to scale up, is to use that money as much as you can by offshoring the development help. How do those guys, assuming they don't have deep relationships already, how would they find someone in Central Europe, or how would Central Europeans find them before they made the decision? It's almost like a wedding. Once they're married, you can't separate them, right? So you got to catch them that hot period when they're just about to get married, because then they're buying everything and then it's over. So how then do those startups, or let's say SMEs, how would they find Central European guys, and how do Central European guys get on their radar screen?
Well, that's kind of an advocacy aspect. A lot of them are talking to people they already know, saying, "Who have you used?" We've actually gotten business from these type of startups because someone we knew said, "Hey, go call Screaming Box, talk to them," right? But also part of it are these groups. So, example, in Santa Monica, there's Silicon Beach. They're kind of an association where businesses talk to them and they provide networking. So example, if our association went to them and said, "Hey, we have a bunch of Eastern European digital service providers," and they could then talk to their members and the startups who are part of Silicon Beach and say, "Hey, here's opportunities for you to talk to them." It is an issue because, again, a lot of them are ignoring their email. If they see an email coming in and it's the standard, "Hey, we have development services in Eastern Europe," they just ignore it or delete it, or like, it's really hard to get through to that. And so now a lot of these organizations are doing more virtual networking, right? And it's going to take a little bit of time to ramp that up. But I think that they'll present some opportunities for that. I was actually kind of impressed with the Developer Week Global. And there were one or two Eastern European digital service providers who were part of that, who were listening or talking or giving a presentation. And they made connection with that. It's a little more difficult than, say, a standard trade show. And there are people who are good at it, and there are people who are not as good at it. So
like in real life,
somebody in your digital service, if you're a digital service provider in Eastern Europe, finding someone who's really good at communicating through, Zoom or LinkedIn or some video chat, and giving presentations and talking about your company on these virtual events and finding them, that's probably going to be a good way to prospect for leads.
Okay. Right. One more question. West Coast, East Coast, US. East Coast, a little bit easier from a time zone perspective. West Coast, pretty difficult for us here in Central Europe. Do you have the same view that that's more difficult for the Central Europeans to get business in the West Coast, or it's the same thing for West Coast, East Coast?
Well, actually, so again, it's one of the reasons why for our company we're more focused on freelancers, because the freelancers tend to be a little bit more flexible. And we have, freelancers in Europe where they've literally, on some of our bigger projects, have set their schedule so they kind of sleep a lot during the day and are working during the evening, right?
Okay.
The digital service providers that we use, it is a little more difficult because their developers are basically, they'll work into the evening. But for West Coast, that means they have to have their meetings before, say, 10 o'clock in the morning, right? So if we have a team that is basically, say, our Ukrainian provider has developers, and we have a project, we have, need 3 or 4 developers on the project, we'll have one of the developers be one of our South American developers. And that way they can take phone calls with the client in the afternoon. And then since they're a developer, they can package up kind of the conversation and work with the team lead to kind of say, "Okay, guys, this is the work you guys need to do." So when they get up in the morning in Eastern Europe, they have stuff to work on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it does take a little bit of work. And again, that's some of the reasons why some digital service providers work for us, is because we can assemble a team like that and kind of set it up so that they can do work more during the afternoon and not have to work so late in the evening.
Okay. Lindo, you work a lot with the US and Canadian cities and networks there. Do you feel that they perceive the Central European digital companies as legitimate prospects for coming into the markets and setting up companies there? Is that targeted by some of them specifically?
100%.
The FDI, inward FDI?
Absolutely. The Central and Eastern Europe market is hot, especially with the US and Canada diversifying their markets and looking at Central and Eastern Europe talent, both for North American companies looking to set up operations and make connections and partnership opportunities in the CEE, but also for attracting talent because, you know, the war on talent. The perception of the CEE region is, from the North American perspective, is that multilingual capabilities, educated, access to talent, that is a market that they want to access to draw the talent in from. Or, you know, when things ease up, I think it'll be easier again to have companies from the CEE come in and incorporate into North America. Right now, I can't see. I think it'll be pretty hard right now, but you know, a year down the road, things will look different again.
Well, one thing that I think maybe David mentioned and someone had mentioned, I can't recall who it was, but one of the leads or sources of leads would be U.S. cities who, it was counterintuitive to me, but U.S. cities who actually would be looking to help their local-based companies tap into Central European talent. It doesn't drive jobs immediately, but it helps those local companies thrive by being well established and having sources to grow. So Dave, talk a bit about that. If you see that as this chambers of commerce or U.S. cities who in fact might be kind of a hidden ally of Central European tech companies.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have two objectives. A lot of the cities and county initiatives and state initiatives have two objectives. The first objective is to try to provide jobs for local workers. The second objective is try to provide a way that their businesses can grow so they can get tax revenue, right? So one of the issues that the local developer markets have is, if you're a good developer, you're hired, right? There aren't a lot of good developers who are actually looking for a job, right? Because even in this current economy, a good developer has a job, right? So it's going to be hard for the cities to provide the first benefit because their employment rates of developers, the problem that they're having is there's companies coming to the cities and counties saying, I need developers, right? How do we, you know, and so the cities, they can only do their standard job processing. So the second question is,
so it's almost kind of a, if you can't beat them, then join them kind of idea.
Yeah. So if the cities are, well, hey, we don't have any developers locally because they're all full, but we can hook you up with Eastern European developers, it allows you to grow your business, which means that the cities and counties get more tax revenue. And that's how they can look at it, right? So I think that is an opportunity for people to contact. And every city they have they have cities of chamber of commerce for all the cities and all the counties, but they also have a lot of what they would call business services or business investment agencies. Mm-hmm. And these agencies are tasked with making sure that the local businesses have the tools they need to grow. Again, they want to make sure they grow so they can get more tax revenue. And so these are allies for anybody trying to do business with U.S. companies. They're hard to work with because anybody in Eastern European knows it isn't easy to work with any kind of bureaucracy or government agency. The same is true in the United States. And so there needs to be kind of almost a local advocacy or somebody who can spend the time to try to connect and work with these people. I went recently this week, started to work with the Ventura County Business Association and City of Commerce. And it is, even now, it's, it's 5 phone calls, a bunch of emails, and eventually you find a person who you can kind of talk to who knows what you're doing, and then you got to spend the time to do the right. So it is a bunch of work, but again, they have a mission. So once they recognize who you are and how you're trying to help with their mission, then it's much more cooperative. But yes, getting that connection, like any bureaucracy, is just difficult to do. But once you get it, then you can work with them.
I also wanted to add, Tom, to that the accelerators are also looking to share talent back and forth. Yeah. For example, MasterCard Labs and Barclays Accelerator, they've both tapped into various their locations in Central and Eastern Europe or right across Europe, and they share talent back and forth. And the startups that are in, say, Vienna, are looking to come over and have a soft landing spot in New York for MasterCard Labs, and then MasterCard Labs, the companies that are with them under their umbrella, they go to Vienna and have soft landing there. And these are done through the economic development agencies, the investment promotion agencies.
Okay. And Dave, we got about 7 minutes. I also want to wrap up pretty soon, but if you are again looking at the U.S. market, and are there any particular undiscovered or not traditionally thought of sectors or specialties inside the digital tech space that are either growing already or poised to grow significantly? I mean, AI comes to mind, IoT, but other things that maybe we haven't thought about.
Well, I think that there is an accounting revolution that's going to occur, where a lot of SMBs are really trying to automate a lot of the accounting processes.
Good. I hate that part of it too. Good.
Yeah. And I there is a integration of technologies on the marketing side, on the accounting side, and on the business side. And that kind of trifecta has always had a lot of difficulty integrating and connecting and coordinating. And I think that there is a lot now that a lot of things have been forced remotely. Companies are really starting to understand that integration was weak to begin with, and it was kind of patched up by sticking everybody in a building. So they had very short communication lines, and they did a lot of stuff manually. And then once it kind of got forced out remotely, the weakness between those parts of the organization are becoming very clear to people. And so I think that there is a lot of opportunity for digital service providers who can provide more than just software, right? So we're seeing it because we provide marketing services, we have some automated accounting services, and we do a lot of business consulting as well, that we're seeing that there are opportunities there. And those opportunities will be things like RPA, robotic processing, augmentation, and even simple stuff like Zapier, just being able to use Zapier and apply it to a business process for somebody if their software has APIs and all that. But even something as simple as marketing, right? These companies, we have a marketing department, and all of a sudden it's spread apart, and the guys aren't communicating very well, and the sales side needs marketing materials quickly, and they don't have the coordination to provide it quickly and cheaply. So there's opportunities for that as well for digital service providers. And I like the concept of digital services. That in itself is expanding, because the traditional marketing agencies are only handling a small slice now. I think the opportunity for Eastern European digital service providers is going to be expanding their services base. They can't be just website development. They need to start understanding and providing marketing services, accounting services, business services, those type of things, in addition to the software, and providing it in a way where when they sell their software services, you know, startups, we do a lot of startup work. They come to us saying, I need a website or I need an app. But what they end up buying from us is also, hey, once we get this, can you help us get it up on the Apple Store and Google Store? And how do we market it once it's up there? And can you do a crowdfunding page for us? And how does crowdfunding work? And so being able as a digital service provider to provide all digital services is really kind of key. And I think the digital service providers in Eastern Europe are going to have to start really opening up what they offer as a line of services.
Okay, that's great.
Tom,
Linda, last thoughts from you, Linda.
Just on that note, with the startup scene, anything to do with autonomous vehicles, smart cities, green energy, and wearable tech, those are all on trend in Canada. And so there's opportunities around there, anything to do with digitalization as well. And I can talk more about that to the individual companies and answer any questions. So looking forward to the next phase.
Well, thanks for that perfect segue, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up here. And Mr. Tutek, if you can say goodbye to Linda and Dave. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to send you guys off because you both have individual meetings now at 15:45 in 2 minutes. You got to get back on the hop-in system, and top right, you will be invited to the meetings. Don't invite them. They will invite you, but be ready. And you'll see a little teeny red button up there, top right of your hop-in screen. So accept that invitation and chat with them for 10 minutes and then go on to the next one, please. So Linda, Dave, goodbye. I'm going to finish a couple of words here with the rest of you. Thanks for the afternoon for your time today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and look forward to talking to people.